Interestingly, because I was in politics 30 years ago, I've known all these guys since they were young. David Cameron, Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, all three of those could be described as actual friends of mine. Yeah. And so I like them all.
But not friends of each other, it seems.
In the political, you say things in the political arena that you don't necessarily really mean. And I happen to know that not that long ago, David Cameron went on a flight with Boris Johnson. They went to a funeral abroad and they chatted quite happily on the aeroplane. I know that Michael Gove and David Cameron were certainly really good friends at one stage. David Cameron expected, the publishers of David Cameron's book, which has been waiting for the liftoff for 3 years, they expected us to come out of the EU in March. And the book was due in October. So the timing is bad. David Cameron is not a person who necessarily would want to rock the boat. But he's got a book to sell.
Yeah.
When I last saw him, I said, how are you sleeping? How are you sleeping, David? He said, oh, like a baby. I wake up every 2 hours crying for my mother.
I think he's the least useful Prime Minister we've ever had, because I've always had the impression that David Cameron went into politics because he didn't actually have anything else to do. He was a boy who went to Eton and Oxford. He was very privileged. He came from a rich stockbroker belt family, and he was just playing at it. He once said, before he became Prime Minister, you know, how hard can it be to run the country? Let's have a go at it. And then when he got in there and found out about the realities of life, he wasn't up to it.
Well, he did quite...
hold on. The coalition.
I was going to say the same as you.
5 years. It's not easy being Prime Minister.
He wanted a coalition, Gyles. He wanted a coalition because he did not want to make decisions. And he thought there'd be no referendum because the election was going to bring him another coalition government in 2015, and the Liberal Democrats would not go for referendum. Right. That's what he banked on.
Let's bring in Salma. Is he a useless politician?
I don't know enough about his entire party policies to rule on whether he's useless or not. I just know that the papers are being quite kind about him, which I think is interesting. There's lots of platitudes out there, and we're talking about, you know, he's mustering his dignity and how he doesn't sleep at night and how the decision of Brexit is keeping up.
He's wrecked the country. It's no wonder he doesn't sleep.
Well, yeah, and I mean, personally, I'm annoyed about what's happened, and personally, I think he is to hold accountable for a lot of what has happened. And I know that previously in precedent, past Prime Ministers don't come out and say things for the very reason that you said it makes it hard for the ruling Prime Minister. And he is saying things now, and there's part of me that's wondering, is that going to tip the boat completely against Boris? And there's part of me that kind of wants that to happen.
He's trying to find somebody to blame.
I don't think it will make any difference at all.
Maybe it won't make any difference at all, right?
The frustration from his point of view, and I know this, is that he felt that the coalition government was a good government. Yeah. He worked hard. He did important things like, for example, a very liberal measure, the equalisation of marriage to enable gay marriage to take place, and that has worked. All of that, he knows, is going to be forgotten. He's the man who allowed the referendum that led to this chaos.
And had the crucially, you know, you can back Brexit and still think he's useless, because what you say is, why didn't he think we need a group on Downing Street working out a plan if Brexit win?
Right.
And they had no plan B.
And the point is, he called it without the research, without knowing what was going to happen, without putting in the proper data.
Well, that's
he just called it, and I think, as Prime Minister, you had a responsibility. You had a responsibility to do the research before you put that to people.
Okay.